To understand how an empire breathes, you don't look at its throne room, you look at its trash heaps. Specifically, the discarded remains of a single meal meant to sustain a man trained to be a ghost. This is an autopsy of power, performed not on a body, but on a ration. Imagine a line of 10,000 men stretching across the horizon, a literal wall of silver and gold moving through the dust of the Anatolian plateau. These are the Immortals, the elite guard of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. They are called Immortal because their number never falters. If one dies, another shadow instantly fills the void. But a shadow still needs to eat. To keep 10,000 elite killers and the hundreds of thousands of support troops behind them operational in a wasteland requires a logistical miracle that borders on the divine. Every calorie is a calculated political move. Every ounce of grain is a tax collected from a conquered satrapy thousands of miles away. If the food stops, the immortality vanishes, and the King of Kings becomes just another man in the desert. We are stripping away the myth of the golden spears to examine the cold, hard mechanics of the stomach. Today, we are analyzing this historical menu as an autopsy of power. When we look at the Persian military machine, we aren't just looking at an army, we're looking at a mobile social hierarchy. At the top of this pyramid were the Immortals. As Herodotus recorded in his histories, while the rest of the Persian army marched with basic necessities, the 10,000 Immortals were followed by a dedicated train of camels and wagons carrying their own specialized food and concubines. This wasn't just luxury for luxury's sake, it was a visible, edible manifestation of their status as the king's favorites. To feed an immortal was to exercise the tribute system in its most literal form. The Achaemenid Empire was divided into satrapies or provinces, each with a specific food tax. Egypt provided grain, Armenia provided horses and livestock, Babylon provided dates and flour. This wasn't a marketplace transaction, it was a resource extraction. When an immortal sat down to eat a ration of high-quality wheat bread, dried fruits, and salted meat, he was consuming the labor of a dozen different nations. The menu was the empire. However, this power had a darker, more exhausting underside, the labor hierarchy required to sustain it. For every one of the 10,000 soldiers, there was a silent army of non-combatants, grind grinders, bakers, and water bearers. In the Persian context, these weren't just staff. Many were enslaved or conscripted laborers from recently conquered territories. There is a profound irony in the social autopsy here. The very people whose lands had been seized were often the ones forced to process the calories that fueled the soldiers who seized them. The Persian King of Kings used these rations as a political signal. Feeding 10,000 men a superior diet in the middle of a scorched plain was a way of saying, "I control the earth and the rain." If the king can provide fresh bread where there is no water, his authority is clearly sanctioned by the gods. Historians like Pierre Briant emphasize that Persian logistics were so sophisticated they utilized way stations along the royal road, pre-stocked with rations. This meant the army didn't just forage, they were catered to by a global infrastructure. To the common soldier in a rival Greek city-state, eating a hard local biscuit, the sight of a Persian immortal eating imperial rations wasn't just intimidating, it was an alien display of resource control that made the Persian king seem like a master of reality itself. To truly understand the immortal ration, we have to move away from the map and into the dust. I've spent the last few days attempting to recreate the core components of the Persian field diet: tanunu, a type of high-protein bread, dried meat, and pressed dates. On paper, it sounds like a modern hiking snack. In practice, preparing this for 10,000 men is a grueling industrial operation that leaves your hands raw and your back screaming. The first thing you realize is the sheer tyranny of the grain. For a soldier to have enough energy to march 20 miles under the weight of a wicker shield and a silver-pommeled spear, he needs roughly 3,000 to 4,000 calories. Most of that comes from barley or wheat. I spent 4 hours just trying to hand grind enough flour for a single day's worth of bread using a stone quern. It is mind-numbing, bone-deep labor. Now multiply that by 10,000. The Persians didn't just carry food, they carried a mobile factory. The sound of the Immortal camp at dawn wouldn't have been the clashing of swords, but the rhythmic, abrasive thuds of thousands of stones crushing grain. As I worked the dough, I realized a crucial judgment call the ancient cooks had to make: the moisture balance. If the bread is too soft, it rots in the Persian heat within 48 hours. If it's too hard, it's inedible without soaking. The solution was a double-baked biscuit, almost like a prehistoric hardtack, but enriched with sesame oil or animal fat to densify the calories. As a relatable explorer here, I can tell you, eating this is a chore. It is dense, heavy, and requires an incredible amount of water to swallow, water that had to be transported in thousands of leather skins. Then there is the meat. In the sage view of the evidence, we know the Persians used a method of salt curing and air drying. I attempted to dry strips of lean beef in a way that mimics the arid conditions of the Iranian plateau. The result is a substance that feels more like wood than food. You don't chew it so much as you endure it. This brings us to the sensory reality of the Persian march. The Immortals were perpetually thirsty. The salt required to preserve their food created a secondary logistical nightmare: the need for a constant, moving supply of potable water. The final element I explored was the date cake. This is the power bar of antiquity. By mashing dates into a thick, sugary paste and pressing them into blocks, the Persians created a shelf-stable sugar hit that could revive a flagging soldier in minutes. Handling this sticky, heavy mass, I realized the weight of it all. A single day's ration for one man weighs about 3 to 4 pounds. For the 10,000 Immortals, that is 40,000 pounds of food every single day. This isn't just cooking, it's a terrifying mechanical triumph over the landscape. After standing over the heat of a clay oven and feeling the grit of the millstone, the mystery of the Immortals shifts. Their immortality was never about magic, it was about the uninterrupted flow of calories. When we reassemble this evidence, we see that the taste of the ration confirms the power of the king. The salt in the meat, the density of the grain, and the sweetness of the dates are the chemical signatures of a state that had successfully tamed the geography of the ancient world. This meal was a psychological weapon. A Greek hoplite, scavenging for local olives and a handful of barley, would look across the battlefield and see an opponent whose dinner was guaranteed by a supply chain stretching to the Nile. The labor we felt in the kitchen, the grinding, the hauling, the curing, reveals a rigid hierarchy where thousands of lives were dedicated solely to the metabolic maintenance of 10,000 elite warriors. The excess of the Persian court wasn't just a sign of decadence, it was a communication of absolute authority. They didn't just conquer territories, they organized them into a giant living pantry. At the end of the day, the Persian Empire was held together by the strength of its logistics as much as the sharpness of its blades. We don't just cook ancient food, we decode the civilizations behind them.